5 in the morning, Kabul. A baker presses dough against the scorching wall of a clay oven. A minute later, he pulls out naan with an iron hook. That same morning in Nangarhar, a teenager loads 8 raw bricks onto his back. Each one weighs about 2 kilograms, 16 kilograms on his shoulders. He walks from the quarry to the drying area. In Herat, a woman opens a saffron flower with her fingers, pulls out 3 red threads and puts them in a bowl. About 150 of these flowers yield 1 gram of dried saffron. In Badakhshan, a miner enters a narrow tunnel in the rock. The entrance is about 1 meter high, and inside it's dark. The miner is after the stone that's been extracted here for 6,000 years. This is what Afghanistan looks like from the inside, a country the world is used to seeing only as destroyed. "650,000 square kilometers of land, about 40 million people. Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, Timur, the Mughals, the British, Soviet troops, and the Americans have all passed through this land. Every army left its mark, and every army left. The land remained. And between all the wars, the same things continued. Bakers would come to the ovens at 5 in the morning. Craftsmen cut clay tiles. Women gathered saffron. Miners descended into tunnels for lapis lazuli. Nomads drove yaks to summer pastures. Today, you'll see hot bread pulled from the oven with iron hooks, lapis lazuli from the same mines as in Tutankhamun's tomb, saffron in the hands of the women of Herat, mosaic assembled millimeter by millimeter with a quieter hammer, glass taken shape from the master's breath, turquoise ceramics from Talith, a tunnel at an altitude of 3.5 kilometers, grapes drying in clay towers, nomads with yaks at 4,000 meters. And when everything is said and done, exactly what still remains completely outside of the news frame? 5 in the morning, Kabul. There's already a line at the clay oven on the street. The oven, a clay wall as thick as a fist. Inside, firewood burns and heat rises from the open mouth of the oven. The baker rolls out the dough with long movements, pressing it against the scorching hot inner wall of the oven. A minute later, he pulls it out with a long iron hook. The bread is called naan, long, flat, with lengthwise grooves from the baker's fingers. The crust is crunchy. Inside, the dough is soft and warm. Taxi drivers, vendors, workers, and students stand in line. Each one takes their stack of naan and moves on. Thin newspaper, packaging. The price is about 20 to 30 Afghanis per piece. Breakfast in Afghanistan is eaten outside at small cafes with plastic chairs. The menu is simple: hot naan, green tea in glass cups, sometimes boiled eggs, sometimes white sheep's milk cheese, sometimes beans and tomato sauce, sometimes cream and honey from the mountain valleys of Parwan. The tea is brewed strong, without sugar. The teapot is either copper or enameled. The glass is small, with a slender waist in the middle. Tea is drunk hot. Between sips, a piece of bread. Between pieces, another sip. This scene is repeated every morning in every city of the country, in Kabul, Herat, Mazar-e-Sharif, Kandahar, Kunduz. An oven, dough, a hook, a newspaper, tea in a glass, bread in hand. The news about Afghanistan shows some else: assault rifles, ruins, drones, ministers, and turbans. The morning naan doesn't make it into the news reports. It's just too ordinary. But it's this very naan that feeds about 40 million people every day. Bakers head to their ovens before dawn. Lines start forming by 6 in the morning. By 8, the bread has already been delivered to homes, schools, and workplaces. The oven is fired with wood, coal, or fuel oil. The temperature inside is about 400 degrees. One baker bakes several hundred flatbreads per shift, without breaks, without days off. Chicken Street stretches for about 500 meters. Shop windows are packed with carpets, lapis lazuli, silver, and old coins. Chicken Street, a name whose origin no one remembers anymore. On both sides, there are narrow shops. They're packed with goods from floor to ceiling. On the floor are carpets, Turkmen, Baluchi, Hazara, different densities, different patterns. The densest carpet contains up to 1 million knots per square meter. To make one, a weaver works for several months or even over a year. In the shop windows, there's lapis lazuli, a deep blue stone with golden flecks of pyrite, rings, necklaces, jewelry boxes, figurines. The stone is brought from the mines of Badakhshan, 800 kilometers from here. On the walls, there's silver, Afghan bracelets, rings, and the chest ornaments of nomads. The patterns are old, repetitive, tribal. Turkmen silver is massive, with large carnelian inlays. Hazara silver is delicate and ornate. In some shops, there are old coins, Greco-Bactrian coins from 2,000 years ago, Kushan and Mongo coins. British rupees from the 19th century, Soviet kopecks, American cents. Armies of Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, the British, Soviet troops, and Americans have all passed through this land. Each army left its coins in the ground. On the shelves, there's carved wood, jewelry boxes, plates, frames. Wood, walnut, cedar, Persian walnut. The carvers work with hand tools, without any machines. Above the shop doors hang coats, black, blue, brown, embroidered with silk on thick fabric. Patterns, tiny flowers, geometric shapes, calligraphy. Each coat takes several weeks to sew. Prices range from $100 to $1,000. Today's shoppers on Chicken Street, locals, the occasional foreigner, and humanitarian organization staff. Until 2021, the street thrived thanks to the military, journalists, and diplomats. Afterwards, business dropped several times over. Some shops closed, some stayed open. The shop owner sits on the floor with a cup of tea. There are few customers. Prices are fixed, no bargaining. Every item in the shop has its own story. Who brought it, from where, and when. "11 terraces descend along the slope of Kabul. On the top terrace lies a simple stone grave under the open sky. Here is buried the man who founded the Mughal Empire. Zahiruddin Muhammad Babur was born in 1483 in the Fergana Valley in what is now Uzbekistan. On his father's side, he was a descendant of Timur, on his mother's side, a descendant of Genghis Khan. The combined blood of the two most famous conquerors of Central Asia. At 12, he inherited the throne of Fergana. At 20, he lost Samarkand and ended up in exile. With a detachment of several hundred men, he made his way to Kabul and captured the city in 1504. Kabul became Babur's base for 20 years. From Kabul, he launched campaigns in India. In 1526, he defeated the Sultan of Delhi at Panipat and founded the Mughal dynasty. The empire lasted for more than 3 centuries. From Babur came Akbar, Shah Jahan, who built the Taj Mahal, and Aurangzeb. Under the Great Mughals, most of present-day India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan were united. Babur could have been buried in Delhi, in Agra, or in Samarkand, the city of his ancestors. In his will, he specified that he should be buried in Kabul, in the garden he himself had laid out on a hill, in a simple spot without a dome under the open sky, so that rain and sunlight would fall directly on his grave. Today, Babur's gardens cover 11 hectares. On each terrace there's a pool with a fountain, and between the terraces are narrow staircases. Throughout the garden grow plane trees, walnut, pomegranate, and mulberry. Some of the trees were planted during Babur's time. Most of them died over the course of 5 centuries and have been replanted. On the very top terrace stands a small marble mosque built by his descendant Shah Jahan. Nearby is the grave, a simple stone slab under the open sky without a dome. Just as it was stated in the will. In the 1990s, the gardens were severely damaged during the Civil War. After 2002, the Aga Khan Foundation restored the terraces, the water supply system, and the mosque. Today, the garden is open to visitors. Local residents come here with their families on weekends. It's more than 800 kilometers to Herat. The truck takes 20-25 hours through mountains, dust, and checkpoints. Herat is located in the west of the country, 60 kilometers from the Iranian border. The city has existed for more than 2,500 years. It was founded by the Persians, later captured by Alexander the Great, then by the Arabs, then the Mongols, and then by Timur. In the Middle Ages, Herat stood at the crossroads of trade routes. Silk from China passed through Herat, spices came from India, glass was brought from Syria, and manuscripts from Baghdad. Horses were driven in from Turkmenistan. Lapis lazuli came from Badakhshan. Caravans would stop at large caravanserai, unload their bundles, trade for several weeks, then load up again and move on. In the 15th century, Herat became the capital of the Timurid Empire under Shahrukh, the son of Timur, and his wife Gawarshad. The poet Alashir Navoy lived in Herat. Here, the miniaturist Kamal ad-Din Behzad worked, creating a school of Persian painting that influenced the art of Iran and India for the next 300 years. In the city, they built madrasas, mosques, tombs, and libraries. Domes were covered with turquoise tiles, and minarets were decorated with calligraphy. By the beginning of the 16th century, Herat was considered one of the main cultural centers of the Muslim East, on par with Cairo and Istanbul. Very little from that era has survived in the city. The minarets at Gawa Harshad Madrasa, 5 towers about 50 meters tall. Some of them tilted after earthquakes. The citadel of Herat, a fortress originally founded during the time of Alexander, rebuilt by the Timurids and later by the emirs of the 19th century. The Friday Mosque was built in the 12th century and rebuilt in the 15th. Blue domes, delicate mosaic on the walls. Modern Herat is the 3rd largest city in the country, with about 600,000 residents. Narrow market rows, shops with fabrics, spices, nuts, tea houses with samovars. The bazaar around the Friday Mosque. In the 90s, the city suffered during the wars. After 2001, restoration work began on the old monuments. Some parts were preserved, while others remain in ruins. In a Herat workshop, a craftsman holds a tile that's a centimeter thick. With a single strike, the blue piece splits along the line the craftsman intended. On a low wooden table, there are clay tiles painted in blue, light blue, turquoise, white, black, and gold. The craftsman sits on the floor with his legs crossed. In front of him is a tool shaped like a small hammer with a hard blade called a tishe. The craftsman places the blade of the tisha against the tile and strikes the tisha with another hammer. The tile splits cleanly. A piece comes out of the tile in a triangular, rhombus, or hexagonal shape. The size is just a few millimeters. The craftsman sets it aside in one of the compartments of a box next to him. This style of mosaic is called hatamkari or kashikari. It has been developed in Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, and Central Asia for over 1,000 years. Every pattern starts with a sketch on paper. The sketch is transferred onto a board. Following the sketch, the craftsman assembles the mosaic piece by piece, like a puzzle. A complex mosaic contains several thousand pieces per square meter. One craftsman works on a square meter for anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks. The pattern is always based on geometry. An octagon in the center, stars in the corners, calligraphy along the edges. Color: blue dominates, turquoise fills in, white separates. There are no random decisions. Every piece is placed according to a mathematical pattern that is 500 to 800 years old. There are about 20 Khatam-Kari workshops operating in Herat. Most of the craftsmen learned the trade from their fathers. There are few apprentices. Young Afghans are leaving for more profitable professions or emigrating. The elders pass on their skills to those who remain. The finished mosaics are used to restore the minarets of Gawar Shad, the facades of madrasas, and tombs. Some are sold as souvenirs, while others are sent to Iran and the Persian Gulf countries for mosque orders. The workshop is filled with the smell of clay, dust, and pigment. The sound is the constant tapping of a hammer on tiles. Hundreds of strikes per hour. A craftsman's finger can lose sensitivity from the fine dust. The eyes grow tired from such precise work. The craftsman finishes one piece and picks up the next. Tap, strike, the crack a tile. He sets it aside in a compartment and takes the next one. In the basement of Old Herat, there is a round kiln, about 2 meters tall. There's a fist-sized hole in the wall of the kiln. Inside is blazing hot. The kiln is fired with coal, wood, fuel oil, or gas. The temperature inside exceeds 1,300 degrees. At that heat, glass becomes liquid. The master takes a long metal tube. It's about 1.5 meters long, with one end for the mouth and the other for the glass. He lowers the hot end of the tube into the kiln and through the opening pulls out a lump of molten glass. The glass hangs from the end of the tube like a drop of thick honey. Its color is orange, shifting to red. You can feel the heat of the tube even through gloves. The master starts rolling the tube on a metal plate. The glass evens out into a sphere, then he blows into the tube. The glass takes shape from the master's breath. A bubble forms inside. The stronger the breath, the bigger the bubble. After a few seconds, the glass starts to cool down. The color changes from red to orange, then to yellow. The master lowers the tube into the furnace again to reheat it. He blows again, rolls it again. After a few minutes, the piece of glass becomes a bowl, or a bottle, or a lamp. The glass blower cuts the piece off the tube with special tongs and sets it on a board to cool. Cooling must be slow, otherwise the glass will crack. The finished glass is blue, green, light blue, sometimes transparent. The color depends on the addition of copper, cobalt, or iron oxide. The surface is wavy, uneven, with traces of fingers and tools. The glass-blowing craft of Herat is over 800 years old. Documents from the Timurid era mention glass workshops that supplied vessels to the court. After the Mongol invasion, most crafts disappeared. Herat glassmaking survived. Today, about 10 families of glassblowers work in Herat. All of them are hereditary craftsmen. Few apprentices come to light. Their products include glasses, pitchers, decanters, and lamps. Some of the products go to the local market, while others are sold to tourists and foreigners through Kabul. Each bowl of Herat glass has passed through fire, the breath of the master, and the fingers that held it on the pipe. Every finished piece bears the mark of the person who made it. October. The fields of Herat province are purple. The saffron bloom lasts from 2 to 3 weeks. Every morning, the fields are covered with new blossoms. By the end of the day, they need to be picked. The saffron flower is small, 6 purple petals, and inside, 3 red threads. That is saffron. Everything else in the flower is discarded. To get 1 gram of dried saffron, you need to pick about 150 flowers. 1 kilogram requires more than 150,000 flowers. On a 1 hectare field, about 4 to 5 kilograms are harvested per season. The work in the fields is done by hand, from 4 in the morning until 10. You can't start earlier. The flowers are just beginning to open. Later, the sun scorches the petals and the quality drops. The pickers are mostly women. Thousands of women work in the saffron fields of Herat. The pay for the season is a few $100s per family. For many, this was their only income for the year. After harvesting, the flowers are brought to the workshops. This is where the second part of the work begins. The women sit down at low tables. Each flower is opened by hand. 3 red threads are taken out and placed in a separate bowl. 200 flowers per hour, 1,000 flowers per shift. A small pile of red threads on the bowl. The drying takes place on special racks in a well-ventilated room at a temperature of about 30 degrees. The threads lose their moisture in a few days. They turn from red to dark red. The aroma becomes stronger. Herat saffron is considered one of the strongest in terms of its content of picrocrosin and saffronol, the substances that give it its color and aroma. According to international laboratory tests, Herat province consistently scores higher than Iranian and Spanish saffron. On the world market, the price per gram ranges from $5 to $15. Herat saffron is exported to Iran, India, the Gulf countries, and Europe. Some of it is smuggled across the border, while some is officially exported through intermediaries in Iran. Saffron fields have been growing in Herat since the late 1990s. At that time, international organizations promoted saffron as an alternative to opium poppy. Poppy brought in more money and faster. Saffron required patience. Saffron is legal, and helicopters with herbicide don't burn it down. After 2021, international support for the project decreased. It became harder for women to go out into the fields. Many plantations are operating at half capacity. The harvest season continues every fall. In Nangarhar, the morning starts by the brick kiln. Black pipes rise above the ground and smoke settles on the clothes. On the outskirts of Jalalabad, under the pipes are brick kilns. Each kiln is a large structure made of clay and brick. The height's about 15 meters. Inside is the firebox. Outside is a platform where the raw bricks dry. There are about 400 kilns in the province according to the latest estimates from humanitarian organizations. Brick production in Nangarhar increased after 2001. The destruction from wars required a lot of building materials. Cement is expensive and imported. There's plenty of clay and it's free. The process is simple. Workers dig clay from the quarry, mix it with water using their feet, and press the mixture into wooden molds. This makes a rectangular raw brick about 20 by 10 centimeters in size. The brick dries in the sun for several days, then goes into the kiln for firing. Firing lasts for several days. The temperature inside the kiln is about 1,000 degrees. After firing, the brick becomes hard and reddish brown. The finished bricks are taken out of the kiln in stacks, loaded onto carts or camels, and transported to construction sites. The price of one brick is about 5 to 7 Afghanis. The price for 1,000 bricks is about 6,000 to 7,000 Afghanis, roughly $100. Construction sites in Kabul, Jalalabad, and Coast buy bricks by the millions each month. Entire families work at the kilns. The head of the family is responsible for the section. The wife mixes the clay. The older generation and the youth carry the raw bricks out to dry. The family is paid for every 1,000 bricks. 1,000 bricks earns just a few dollars for everyone. Most families working at the kilns are in debt. The kiln owners give them an advance as a loan. The family works off the debt for years, but can't leave. The debt grows faster than it can be paid off. This system is called bond labor, debt slavery. Clay under their fingernails, gray smoke on their clothes, bent backs, heavy trays of bricks balanced on their heads, from morning until dark, 6 days a week. 6 in the morning. A teenager loads 8 wet bricks onto his back. They weigh 16 kilograms. He has to walk to the drying yard over and over again. According to estimates by the UN and the International Labor Organization, about 2 million miners work in Afghanistan. 1 in 5 young people in the country works instead of going to school. At the brick kilns of Nangarhar, Lagar, Kabul, and Parwan, tens of thousands of teenagers between 12 and 18 years old work. At the kiln, work starts before sunrise. At 6 in the morning, the air is still cold. The family leaves their mud hut next to the kiln, heads to the quarry, and mixes a new batch of clay. Teenagers carry raw bricks from the quarry to the drying area. Each brick weighs about 2 kilograms. They stack 6 to 8 bricks on their heads or backs. They carry them all day long. At the drying area, the bricks are turned over after a few hours. The sideline on the ground stays wet. If you don't turn them over, the brick will crack during firing. Thousands of bricks are turned by hand. The finished, fired bricks are stacked in piles. The stacks are taller than a person. The bricks are passed from one person to another in a chain. Dropping a heavy brick on your foot breaks the bone. Injuries are a common thing. School is a distant dream in this life. The family has to earn a living. One lost workday means less food on the table. Some teenagers go to school in the morning for 2 or 3 hours, then return to the kiln. Some don't go at all. After the Taliban came to power in 2021, the situation got worse. Girls were barred from school after 6th grade. Families lost part of their income, especially those where women work. Debts increased. Young people became the only source of labor for many households. Clay gets ingrained in the skin of the Hinans. The coughing from the smoke becomes constant. By the age of 20, their backs are already bent from the heavy lifting. Their eyes get tired from the fine dust. Young workers at the kilns are, on average, 5 to 7 centimeters shorter than their peers who went to school. Humanitarian programs are trying to get young people out of the kilns. UNICEF, Save the Children, and local Afghan NGOs. The program is simple. The family gets paid for sending their teenager to school, and they receive as much as the teen would have earned at the kiln. The program works where there is funding, but there often isn't enough money. The potter places wet clay in the center of a wooden wheel. His foot spins the wheel. In 3 minutes, a bowl rises from the shapeless lump. This is Istalef, a village north of Kabul in the Shamali Valley. About 2,000 residents. Houses made of clay and stone. 8 to 10 families, each with their own workshop. The craft has been passed down from father to son for more than 500 years. All the workshops make the same thing, turquoise ceramics with a distinctive green-blue glaze. Every bowl or jug is made by hand, from clay to finished product. No molds, no machines, no mass production. The clay is dug up in the nearby ravines, ground into a fine powder, mixed with water, and left to settle for several days. The coarse stones sink to the bottom. The clean clay goes onto the potter's wheel. The potter's wheel is wooden with a foot pedal drive. The master sits at the wheel, places a lump of clay in the center, spins the wheel with his feet, and shapes the vessel's walls with his fingers. After 2 or 3 minutes, a finished bowl stands on the wheel. It is removed with a thin wire. After shaping, the vessel dries in the open air for several days. Then comes the first firing at a temperature of about 900 degrees. The clay becomes hard but still porous. The color is terracotta. Next comes the most difficult part, the glaze. The glaze from Talif is made according to an old recipe. The ishkar plant, which grows in the salt flats on the plains, is gathered and burned. The ash from the ishkar is ground into powder. Ground quartz and copper oxide are added to the ash. This creates a glassy mixture. The vessel is dipped into the glaze, dried, and then fired a second time at a temperature of about 1,000 degrees. In the kiln, the copper oxidizes and gives the characteristic blue-green color. After firing, the vessel's taken out of the kiln. The glaze hardens unevenly. It's thicker in some places and thinner in others. The color ranges from bright turquoise to green and dark blue. It's impossible to make 2 identical vessels. In the 1990s, most of the workshops in Talif were destroyed during the fighting. After 2002, international organizations helped restore 6 workshops. The potters returned and the kilns are working again. Today, a single bowl from Talif costs about $2 to $3 at the local market. In Kabul, it's $5 to $7. In shops in Dubai and London, it's $50 to $100. Between the potter's wheel and a mountain village and a shop window in London are middlemen, transporters, taxes, and sanctions. The entrance to the Sari Sang mine is lower than a person's height. The miner bends down and disappears into the darkness in search of the stone that has been extracted here for more than 6,000 years. The gorge lies in the mountains of northeastern Afghanistan in Badakhshan province. The altitude is about 2,000 meters. The climate is harsh. In winter, it's -25, in summer, +30. In the cliffs of the gorge, there is blue rock, dark blue stone with golden flecks of pyrite and white veins of calcite. This is lapis lazuli. Archaeologists have found lapis lazuli from Badakhshan in Sumerian Ur, in the tombs of Egyptian pharaohs, and in Tutankhamun's tomb. Tutankhamun's mask is decorated with blue stripes made from this very stone. Before lapis lazuli reached the Valley of the Kings, caravans traveled through Iran, Mesopotamia, Syria, and the Levant. About 5,000 kilometers on foot and by camel. One of the longest trade routes of the ancient world. In the Middle Ages, lapis lazuli was sent to Byzantium, the Islamic world, and Italy. Venetian merchants bought the stone and ground it into the pigment ultramarine, the most expensive blue color in the history of painting. During the Renaissance, a gram of ultramarine cost more than a gram of gold. This pigment was used to paint Madonnas in medieval art. The Virgin Mary's dresses in the works of Bellini, Leonardo, Raphael, Titian, Vermeer. Lapis lazuli from Badakhshan. Today, the mines operate just as they did 1,000 years ago. No mechanization at all. Workers climb steep paths to the entrance of the tunnel. Inside, it's darkness, rock, and dust. The miner works bent over or on his knees. The tools are a pickaxe, hammer, chisel, and sometimes dynamite to break through a new passage. The tunnels go several hundred meters deep into the mountain. Lighting comes from a headlamp on a helmet or a kerosene lamp. Chunks of lapis lazuli come in all sizes, from small stones to boulders weighing several dozen kilograms. The most valuable is dark blue, without calcite veins. The cheapest is light-colored, with a lot of white inclusions. Miners carry the stones out on their backs or on donkeys, delivering them to the village in the valley. There, buyers assess the stones and pay. The mine's income goes through various channels. Since 2021, the mines have been controlled by the Taliban movement. Part of the income goes to the state, part to local commanders, and part to smuggling networks that transport the stones to Pakistan, Iran, Dubai, and further on to China and Europe. The altitude's 3,400 meters. The Salang Tunnel in the Hindu Kush mountain range. It is 2,670 meters long. At the time it opened, it was one of the highest altitude road tunnels in the world. The tunnel was built by Soviet engineers in the 1960s. Design work began in 1958 and it opened in 1964. Construction took several years. Crews worked in thin air conditions. At an altitude of 3.5 kilometers, the oxygen content is a quarter less than at sea level. Every step is twice as hard. Every effort is shorter than it would be down below. The tunnel walls are concrete, the lighting is dim, and the ventilation doesn't always work. In winter, the temperature inside is about -5, while outside it can be -30. Trucks carrying food from Uzbekistan and Tajikistan drive through the tunnel. Wheat, flour, meat. And with fuel, diesel, gasoline. With cement, metal, and wood. With contraband, lapis lazuli, emeralds, opium. With passengers, old buses, taxis, minibuses. Traffic in the tunnel's usually one way. From 6 in the morning until noon, it goes south to Kabul. From noon until midnight, it goes north to Mazar-e-Sharif and Badakhshan. If this schedule's disrupted, a traffic jam several kilometers long forms at the entrance. There are often accidents in the tunnel. In 1982, a fuel tanker exploded, killing hundreds of people. In 2002, an avalanche at the tunnel entrance killed dozens. In the 2010s, there were several more major accidents. If the Salang is closed due to an avalanche, earthquake, or repairs, the consequences are felt throughout the entire country. About 70% of overland cargo between northern and central Afghanistan passes through the tunnel. A single day of downtime results in losses of tens of millions of dollars. Markets in Kabul react immediately. Prices for flour, oil, and vegetables go up by 5 or 10%. The tunnel is aging, the concrete from the 60s is crumbling, the lighting only works halfway, and the ventilation needs repairs. Restoration programs for Salang have been discussed since the 90s. Funding rarely comes through. The trucks keep moving. In Parwan province, long rectangular buildings stand among the vineyards. The walls are made of adobe bricks, the roof is flat, made from clay and straw. Along the entire length of the wall are narrow vertical openings, hundreds of holes in each building. This is a kishmish khana, which in Farsi and Dari means house for raisins. In Afghanistan, this structure has been used to dry grapes for over 1,000 years. The process is simple. Grape clusters are cut from the vine in September or October, brought to the kishmish khana, and hung on ropes or wooden slats along the walls. There is space between the clusters so that air can circulate. Dry mountain air constantly moves through the holes in the walls. Direct sunlight does not enter inside. The sun would ruin the color of the grapes. The grapes dry slowly at a temperature of about 30 degrees and low humidity. The process takes from 3 to 6 weeks. During this time, the grapes lose about 80% of their water. The clusters shrink, and their color changes from green to pale gold or light green. Afghan kishmish is specifically green raisins, which are different from the dark European variety. The process requires precision. If the air is too humid, you get mold. If it's too dry and hot, the fruit cracks. If there are too many grape clusters in one room, air circulation drops and the grapes spoil. If there are too few, the building sits empty and doesn't pay for itself. Kishmish khanas come in different sizes. The small ones are 10 or 15 meters long, while the large ones can be up to 50 meters. The walls are about half a meter thick. Clay keeps the temperature steady both day and night. Afghanistan is one of the largest producers of kishmish in the world. Most of the harvest is exported to India, Pakistan, Russia, and the Gulf countries. The labeling is often Iranian or Indian because direct export from Afghanistan is complicated by sanctions and logistical problems. The vineyards in Parwan and Shamali are planted with low vines. They're about a meter high. The vines don't climb on trellises like they do in Europe. They're laid out in bundles to retain moisture in the hot, dry climate. The drying season is the quietest time of year in the vineyards. After the harvest, before winter, the kishmish hana is filled with bunches of grapes. Dry air passes through the holes in the walls. The grapes slowly turn into raisins. After 6 weeks, the bunches are taken down, packed, and brought to market. June. In the mountain villages of Parwan, Kapisa, Bamyan, and Badakhshan, the mulberry season begins. It lasts about 2 weeks, sometimes a little longer. Mulberry trees grow in every yard and along the roads. The tree is large, with a dense crown and a trunk about half a meter in diameter. Some of these trees are over 100 years old. The berries are white, pink, or dark purple. They're about the size of a pinky finger segment. Sweet, honey-like. Ripe mulberries fall from the tree at the slightest touch. The harvest is done the old-fashioned way. A thick cloth, a few sheets, or a plastic tarp is spread out under the tree. One person climbs the tree with a long stick and shakes the branches. The berries fall like rain onto the cloth and people below gather them up. In a single day, you can collect anywhere from 50 to 200 kilograms of fresh mulberries from one tree. The season is short, so you have to hurry. Families work from early morning until dark. After the harvest, the drying process begins. Fresh mulberries are spread out in a thin layer on flat rooftops, on wooden trays, or on clean cloth. The hot mountain sun dries the berries in just a few days. Dried mulberries are white or light brown, hard, and very sweet. They can be stored for several months without refrigeration. They're simply packed into bags. In the past, dried mulberries were one of the main foods in the mountain provinces. Winter in the mountains is long, 6 months. There are no fresh vegetables or fruits. The supplies are wheat, rice, dried beans, nuts, raisins, and mulberries. Mulberries are eaten on their own as a sweet treat, sometimes together with ground nuts. This makes a mixture called talhan. Sometimes it's ground into flour and mixed with wheat flour. The flatbreads turn out dark and sweet. In times of famine, these flatbreads saved entire villages. During the wars of the 20th century, mulberries helped people survive blockades. In the villages of Hazarajat and Badakhshan, which were cut off by snow and fighting, a sack of dried mulberries could feed a family for weeks. 1 kilogram of dried berries contains about 3,500 calories, more than flour. Today, mulberries are less and less often the basis of people's diet. In mountain villages, people still dry them on rooftops under the sun, following the old tradition. Some of the sacks are sold in the city, while some are kept for the winter. The elders remember times when, without these berries, the village wouldn't have survived the cold. On the map of Afghanistan, there's a thin finger of land that stretches toward China. At its narrowest point, it's about 15 kilometers wide. Beyond this strip, the trails begin, places where cars can no longer pass. This is the Wakhan Corridor, about 350 kilometers long. It borders Tajikistan to the north, Pakistan to the south, and ends at China in the east. It was created at the end of the 19th century. The British and Russian empires were dividing Central Asia. They agreed to leave a narrow strip of land between their territories so that their borders would never directly touch. This strip was left to Afghanistan. The population of the corridor is about 20,000 people. The main peoples are the Wakhi and the Kyrgyz. The Wakhi live in the lower part, closer to Tajikistan. They speak the Wakhi language, which belongs to the Eastern Iranian group. The Kyrgyz live in the upper part, in the Pamirs, closer to China. Life in Wakhan is simple. Agriculture, barley, peas, and potatoes are grown in the lower areas. Above 2,500 meters, the land does not yield crops. Animal husbandry, sheep, goats, yaks, and horses. There are no other sources of income. There are 2 roads in Wakhan. One goes along the Pan River Valley to the village of Kalai Panj. Beyond that, there is no road, only a trail. The trail's narrow, sometimes running along the edge of a cliff, sometimes going into the water. You have to wade across icy rivers. In some places, the trail climbs over passes higher than 4,000 meters. It takes several days to get from Kalai Payan to the Kyrgyz nomad camps in Little Pamir. The only transportation is on foot or by yak. Cars can't get through, and even horses can't make it everywhere. In winter, the corridor is cut off, snow covers the passes, and the rivers freeze. There's no connection, there's practically no mobile service in Wakhan. Radio communication works via satellite. Electricity is only available in the lower villages, supplied by small hydroelectric stations. Medical help consists of a single small clinic in the village of Kretz in the lower part of the corridor. Above that, there's nothing. If someone in the family gets sick, they carry him on a yak for several days to Kretz if they make it in time. There's a school in the lower villages. In the upper ones, sometimes a winter school operates in a yurt. One teacher, a few young students. In the remote and rugged region of the Little Pamir, school lessons for the local children are primarily conducted in both the Dari and Kyrgyz languages to preserve their heritage. This isolated community is situated at an extreme high-altitude location where the elevation reaches approximately 4,000 meters above sea level, creating a unique and challenging environment for daily life and education. The air is thin, with 40% less oxygen than at sea level. Summer's short and just 2 or 3 weeks in July and August. The rest of the time, it's cold and windy. Afghan Kyrgyz live here, about 1,300 people according to the latest census. A Turkic people, nomads, originally from the Pamirs and the Tian Shan. Their ancestors came here hundreds of years ago. After the Soviet borders were established in the 1920s, they found themselves cut off from the main Kyrgyz population in Soviet Kyrgyzstan and remained on the Afghan side. Families live in yurts. A yurt is a round structure made of felt stretched over a wooden frame. It has a diameter of about 5 to 6 meters, and the height at the center is about 3 meters. The felt is made from sheep's wool, rolled by hand over several days of work. A yurt can be assembled in 2 to 3 hours and taken down in an hour. During seasonal migrations, the family takes down the yurt, loads it onto yaks, walks several kilometers to a new campsite, and sets up the yurt again. The herds are their main wealth. A single Kyrgyz household may own 50 to 100 yaks, 200 to 300 sheep, and several horses. They get milk, wool, and meat from the yaks, and meat, wool, and hides from the sheep. Horses are used for transportation. The yak is the main animal of the Pamirs. A yak can withstand minus 40 degrees. A yak eats tough mountain grass that other animals won't eat. Yak milk has a fat content of about 7 to 8%, almost twice as rich as cow's milk. They make cheese from this milk, which can be stored for years. There is no fuel for cooking or heating in the Pamirs. There is no firewood. At this altitude, trees don't grow. You can't bring in coal. There are no roads, no gas. The only fuel is dried yak dung. Families collect dung in the summer and lay it out in flat patties to dry in the sun. Dry dung burns just like coal. There's no smell, and it's warm enough to boil a kettle and heat the yurt even when it's -20 outside. The diet consists of yak and mutton, cheese, sour milk, barley flour, and tea with salt and milk. There are no fresh vegetables or fruits. There's no bread. There's nowhere to bring wheat from. Vitamins come only from meat, milk, and the occasional herb. The average life expectancy of the Pamir Kyrgyz is about 50 to 55 years. Child mortality is among the highest in the world. If someone falls ill in winter, there's no saving them. There are no doctors. It's several days' journey to the nearest clinic. One Afghanistan fits into a news frame, but another begins at 5 in the morning by the clay stove. In one country, a baker lives in Kabul. He comes out to the oven at 5 in the morning. In the same country, a merchant on Chicken Street sells a carpet that took a year to weave. A mosaic master in Herat cuts tiles with a hammer. Quieter. A glassblower shapes a bowl with a single breath. A woman in a saffron field searches for 3 red threads in each flower. A teenager in Nangarhar carries 8 bricks on his back. A potter from Talif dips a vessel into turquoise glaze. A miner in Sarasang comes out of the tunnel with a piece of lapis lazuli. A truck driver crosses the Salang Pass at -30 degrees. A grape grower in Parwan hangs bunches of grapes in the Kishmishkhana. A family on the rooftop sorts mulberries. A Waki leads a yak along a trail across an icy river. A Kyrgyz in the Pamirs lights a hearth with dry dung. All of this is one country, one passport, one flag. The news shows something else. Taliban fighters at a press conference. Drones over the mountains, lines of refugees, girls' schools closed, reports of terrorist attacks, humanitarian aid crises. This picture is real, but it doesn't capture the whole country. One naan in Kabul costs about 20 Afghanis. 1 gram of saffron in Herat is about $10. 1 kilogram of lapis lazuli ranges from $50 to $500. 1 fired brick is about 5 Afghanis. 1 dried bunch of grapes costs a few cents. These small numbers make up the economy of a country where about 40 million people live. All this is happening on the same land, in a country of bakers and glassblowers, where girls have been barred from school after the 6th grade. The decision was made in 2021. About 1.5 million girls do not have access to secondary education. In the country of saffron fields, women are forbidden to work in most government institutions. Family incomes have dropped. Some households, where the main breadwinner was a woman, have fallen below the poverty line. In this same country, the economy declined after 2021. GDP fell by about 30%. About 28 million people, 2/3 of the population, are in need of humanitarian aid. Every 3rd child suffers from malnutrition. A mosaic master in Herat cuts tiles and doesn't know what will happen to his daughter after 6th grade. A woman in a saffron field doesn't know if she'll be able to sell her harvest this year. A family at a brick kiln in Nangarhar doesn't know if their debt will grow over the winter. A Kyrgyz in the Pamirs doesn't know if a doctor will make it there if someone in the family gets sick.